The morning mist clung to the valley like a whisper. Maya stood at the edge of her grandmother's old garden, staring at the tangled weeds and withered flowers. She hadn't been here in years, not since her life had begun to feel heavy, weighted down by thoughts she couldn't escape. Lately, everything felt wrong. Her job exhausted her, her relationships felt shallow, and inside her chest lived a quiet ache she couldn't name. She had come here seeking peace, hoping the countryside might offer what the city could not. But as she looked at the neglected garden, she saw only her own reflection, overgrown, forgotten, out of control. The garden had once been beautiful. She remembered her grandmother tending it with careful hands, planting seeds with intention, pulling weeds before they could spread. Now it was chaos, and Maya wondered if her mind had become the same a place where dark thoughts grew wild, choking out anything good. Maya knelt beside a patch of dried earth, her fingers brushing against brittle stems. She hadn't realized how deeply her own negative thinking had rooted itself. Every morning she awoke to the same sunquine of worry. I'm not good enough. I'll never be happy. Nothing ever works out for me. These thoughts came automatically now, like breathing. She had stopped questioning them long ago. Her grandmother had once told her something, though Maya had been too young to understand it then. Your mind is a garden, child. Whatever you plant will grow. At the time, it sounded like one of those things old people say, simple, sweet, meaningless. But now, surrounded by decay, the words returned to her with startling clarity. What had she been planting in her own mind? She thought of all the mental habits she'd cultivated over the years, dwelling on failures, replaying embarrassing moments, imagining worst-case scenarios. She had watered these thoughts daily with her attention, and now they had grown into thick vines that wrapped around her sense of self-worth, her joy, her hope. Maya felt a tear slide down her cheek. She had been so focused on changing her external circumstances, getting a better job, finding the right relationship, moving to a new place. But she had never considered that the problem might be internal, that her own thoughts were creating the reality she was trying to escape. A voice startled her from behind. Gardens don't fix themselves. Maya turned to see an elderly man watching her from the garden gate. His face was weathered like old wood, his eyes kind. She recognized him vaguely, a neighbor, perhaps someone her grandmother had known. I didn't mean to intrude, he said, stepping closer, but I saw you standing here, and I thought you might need help. I helped your grandmother with this garden for many years. Maya wiped her eyes quickly. I don't know where to start. It's all too much. The man smiled. Every garden starts with a single seed. The question is, what do you want to grow? He handed her a small packet of wildflower seeds. Your grandmother used to say that tending a garden teaches you how to tend your mind. Both require the same things: patience, attention, and the wisdom to know what deserves to grow and what needs to be removed. Together, they began to work. The man showed her how to identify weeds by their roots, shallow and invasive, and how to pull them carefully so they would not return. He taught her to prepare the soil to create space for new growth. As they worked, he spoke about mindfulness and awareness, about how every thought is like a seed, and how we choose which ones to cultivate. You see, the old man said, sitting back on his heels, most people think their thoughts just happen to them. But that's not entirely true. Yes, thoughts arise automatically. That's the nature of the mind. But you have a choice about which thoughts you give your attention to. Attention is like water and sunlight. Whatever you focus on will grow stronger. Maya paused, a handful of weeds in her palm. But what if the bad thoughts keep coming back? What if I can't control them? You can't always control which seeds blow into your garden, he replied, gesturing to the wind. But you can choose which ones you allow to take root. When a negative thought appears, you don't have to water it. You don't have to build your day around it. You can acknowledge it, then choose to turn your attention elsewhere toward gratitude, toward possibility, toward peace. He pointed to a small green shoot pushing through the soil. See that? That's proof that life wants to grow. Even in the hardest ground, something is trying to bloom. Your mind is the same. No matter how long you've lived with negativity, there is always the capacity for change, for growth, for beauty. Maya felt something shift inside her, loosening, a small opening of hope. She had spent so long believing she was broken, that her unhappiness was permanent. But what if it wasn't? What if her reality could change simply by changing what she gave her attention to? The man continued. Every morning, you make a choice. Will you rehearse your worries, or will you plant seeds of gratitude? Will you replay your failures, or will you imagine your growth? This is not about positive thinking or denying reality. It's about becoming a conscious gardener of your own mind. It's about taking responsibility for the inner landscape you create. Over the following weeks, Maya returned to the garden every day. She cleared away the weeds, enriched the soil, and planted new seeds with intention. And as the garden transformed, so did she. She began to notice her thoughts more carefully when worry arose. She named it and let it pass. When self-criticism appeared, she questioned whether it was true or just an old habit. She started a new practice each morning. Before opening her eyes, she would name 3 things she was grateful for. It felt awkward at first, almost false, but gradually it became natural. Her mind began to seek out beauty instead of danger, possibility instead of limitation. The garden bloomed. Wildflowers swayed in the breeze, their colors bright against the green, and Maya bloomed too. She felt lighter, more present, more alive. She realized that her external circumstances hadn't changed much. She still had the same job, the same challenges, but her internal reality had transformed completely. She understood now what her grandmother had meant. Your mind is a garden. You cannot control every seed that lands there, but you can choose what you cultivate. And with time, patience, and mindful attention, you can create something beautiful. Maya stood in the garden one evening watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and rose. She thought about all the days she had wasted, believing she was powerless, trapped by her own thoughts. Now she knew the truth. She was not a victim of her mind. She was its gardener. The lesson was simple but profound. Your thoughts shape your reality. Not because of magic or mysticism, but because attention creates patterns, and patterns create habits, and habits create the life you live. If you want to change your life, start with your mind. Plant seeds of kindness, gratitude, hope. Pull weeds of worry, comparison, regret. Tend your inner garden with the same care you would give to something precious, because it is precious. Your mind is the only garden you will ever truly own. If you liked this story, please give it a like and share it with your friends. And don't forget to subscribe for more inspiring stories like this one. Thank you for staying with us. See you in the next story with new thoughts and new lessons. Until then, stay well and stay peaceful.